Here is a biological fact that shocks almost every patient I meet, and it's the only way to start this conversation honestly. Your hair isn't actually turning gray, it is being bleached from the inside out. If you are over 60 and watching your natural color fade into silver or white, you need to know that this isn't just bad genetics or an inevitable sad slide into old age. It is a chemical reaction. It is happening right now because four specific chemical switches in your body have flipped to the off position. And the medical reality that nobody tells you is that you can flip them back on. If you know these four tricks, you can stop that internal bleaching process cold and in many documented cases, actually bring the color back. Welcome. It is good to have you here. I know that moment all too well. You wake up, splash some water on your face, and lean in toward the bathroom mirror. It's a ritual you've performed tens of thousands of times, but one morning, the light catches something that makes you pause. It's not just a stray silver strand anymore, it's a changing landscape. The person staring back at you looks distinguished, sure, but also tired, older. You might feel a sudden quiet pang of loss, wondering where the vibrancy of your 30s and 40s went. You might even touch those gray roots and think, well, that's just life. My parents went gray, so I'm destined for the silver fox look, whether I like it or not. But here is the truth that very few people, even your doctor will tell you, that graying hair is not strictly a biological countdown clock that runs out of batteries the moment you hit 60. It is actually a signal. It is a dashboard warning light on the complex vehicle that is your body flashing to tell you that specific systems are underfueled, overheated, or clogged. The mainstream narrative tells you that melanin production just shuts down and there's nothing you can do but buy a box of dye or embrace the white. I'm here to tell you that narrative is incomplete and frankly, it's disempowering. While we can't stop time, we can absolutely influence how our cells age. Graying is largely a result of metabolic changes and nutritional gaps that, when addressed, can slow down, halt, and in some medically documented cases, even repigment the hair shaft. Today, we are going to walk through four specific science-backed protocols, tricks, if you will, that target the root cause of graying, not just the symptom. We are going to look at why your hair follicles are essentially suffocating and how to breathe life back into them. By the end of our time together, you won't just have a strategy for your hair, you'll have a blueprint for revitalizing your entire system. Before we dive into the science of restoring your color, I want to invite you to join our community here. If you believe that aging should be a journey of strength rather than decline, and if you appreciate health advice that digs deeper than the surface and treats you with the respect your experience deserves, consider subscribing. We share the kind of senior health tips that mainstream medicine often overlooks. And I'm curious, where are you tuning in from today? Let me know in the comments. I love seeing how far this message travels. Now, let's get into the first major strategy. This is perhaps the most critical concept to understand because it fundamentally changes how you view your hair. The first trick to preventing gray hair is understanding how to stop your body from bleaching itself from the inside out. That might sound dramatic, but biologically, it is exactly what is happening. We often think of gray hair as a lack of color, but it's actually the presence of something else. Your hair follicles naturally produce a substance called hydrogen peroxide. You know this chemical. It's the same stuff you might use to disinfect the cut, or ironically, to bleach hair blonde in a salon. In a youthful, healthy body, your cells produce an enzyme called catalase. Catalase is your biological janitor. Its only job is to break down that hydrogen peroxide into harmless water and oxygen before it can do any damage. But as we cross the threshold of 60, and sometimes even earlier, our production of catalase plummets. When catalase levels drop, hydrogen peroxide builds up within the hair follicle. It literally bleaches your hair pigment melanin from the inside. Imagine a beautiful dark mahogany table. If you leave a bleach-soaked rag on it every single day, eventually that wood will turn white. That is your hair follicle under oxidative stress. The science on this is incredibly compelling. A landmark study published in the FACEB journal, which is the Federation of American Societies for Experimental Biology, confirmed this mechanism. The researchers examined the hair follicles of people with vitiligo and gray hair and found that the accumulation of hydrogen peroxide was the primary culprit because of this massive drop in catalase. They discovered that this oxidative stress was literally deactivating the enzymes responsible for creating color. So the trick isn't to dye the hair, it's to boost your catalase levels to clean up the bleach. You cannot simply take a catalase pill effectively because digestion breaks the enzyme down before it reaches your follicles. You have to help your body produce it. This means eating foods that are catalase powerhouses or that support the liver's antioxidant capacity. Think of your body like a factory. If the cleaning crew catalase goes on strike, the toxic waste piles up and ruins the product. You need to hire more cleaners. The best way to do this is through specific dietary changes. Sweet potatoes, carrots, onions, garlic, and cruciferous vegetables like broccoli are essential. But here is the actionable takeaway I want you to start this week. Incorporate wheatgrass or barley grass into your routine. These are some of the most potent sources of catalase available in nature. A simple shot of wheatgrass juice or a scoop of powder in your morning smoothie can act like a fire extinguisher for that oxidative stress burning out your pigment. Moving smoothly into our second area of focus, we have to talk about the ignition switch for color. It is not enough to just stop the bleaching. You have to fuel the engine that creates the pigment in the first place. This brings us to a mineral that is shockingly deficient in the modern senior diet, yet it is the absolute gatekeeper of hair color. The second trick is mastering your copper intake to activate the tyrosinase enzyme. Let's get a little technical for a moment, but I promise to keep it simple. Your hair gets its color from melanin, but melanin doesn't just appear. It has to be manufactured by melanocytes. The factory worker that builds melanin is an enzyme called tyrosinase. Here's the catch. Tyrosinase is completely dormant. It is asleep on the job unless it interacts with copper. Copper is the spark plug. Without copper, the tyrosinase engine doesn't start, melanin isn't made, and the hair grows out gray, regardless of how healthy you are otherwise. You might think you eat a balanced diet, so surely you have enough copper. But as we age, our ability to absorb trace minerals diminishes. Furthermore, the modern diet is high in zinc, which is great for immunity, but zinc and copper compete for absorption in the gut. If you've been taking high dose zinc supplements for cold and flu season without balancing it with copper, you might have inadvertently shut down your pigment production. The research backs this up powerfully. A study published in the journal Biological Trace Element Research analyzed the serum copper levels in patients with premature graying and found significantly lower copper concentrations compared to control groups with normal hair. Color. The study concluded that trace element status is directly linked to hair pigmentation disorders. It's a clear, quantifiable link. Low copper equals low pigment. Imagine your hair follicle is a artist trying to paint a portrait. The artist is there, the canvas is there, but someone locked the paint supply closet. Copper is the key to that closet. Without it, the artist has nothing to work with. So what is the fix? You need to introduce copper-rich foods, but you need to do it wisely. Organ meats like beef liver are the gold standard, but I know that's not palatable for everyone. Shiitake mushrooms, sesame seeds, cashews, and dark chocolate, real dark chocolate, at least 70% cocoa are excellent sources. However, for a potent, senior-friendly solution that covers multiple bases, look at chlorophyll. Liquid chlorophyll, often derived from mulberry leaves, is structurally very similar to hemoglobin, but contains magnesium and helps transport copper. Here is your actionable advice for this trick. Evaluate your supplements. If you are taking zinc, ensure the ratio is roughly 15 milligrams of zinc to 1 milligram of copper. And try adding a tablespoon of black sesame seeds or a handful of cashews to your daily breakfast. It's a small, tasty change that essentially hands the key back to the artist inside your hair follicle. Before we proceed to the third trick, I want to take a quick pause. We've covered oxidation and mineral deficiency, two very physical chemical processes. But as we know, we aren't just bags of chemicals. We are thinking, feeling beings, and the way we interact with the world has a profound impact on our biology. If you are finding this deep dive helpful so far, please take a second to hit that thumbs up button. It tells me that you value this level of detail and helps us reach more people who are looking for real answers. Now, let's tackle the third trick, which might be the most profound because it links your nervous system directly to your appearance. This is about preserving your color reservoir. The third trick is managing the sympathetic nerve response to protect your melanocyte stem cells. For decades, the idea that stress turns you gray was considered an old wives' tale. Scientists would roll their eyes at the suggestion that a fright or a stressful year could strip the color from your hair. Well, science has finally caught up with grandmother's wisdom, and the results are startling. We have stem cells in our hair follicles that act as a reservoir. When you shed a hair and start growing a new one, these stem cells differentiate. They change into the pigment producing cells we talked about earlier. However, these stem cells are a finite resource. Once they are gone forever. In 2020, a groundbreaking study was published in the prestigious journal Nature, one of the most respected scientific journals in the world. Researchers from Harvard University, led by Dr. Yasuieshu, discovered exactly how stress turns hair gray. They found that when you are under chronic stress, your body releases norepinephrine. This is a fight or flight neurotransmitter. This chemical causes the sympathetic nerves, which reach all the way into the hair follicle, to go into overdrive. This overactivity causes the stem cells to activate excessively and prematurely. Essentially, in a state of high stress, your body panics and uses up all its paint at once. The stem cells migrate away from the follicle and are depleted. The study showed that after just a few days of intense stress, all the pigment regenerating stem cells were lost. The result, the next time the hair grew, there were no cells left to color it. It was permanent. Think of it like a bank run. If everyone rushes to the bank to withdraw their money at the exact same time because of a panic, the bank runs out of cash. Your stem cells are the cash. Chronic stress causes a biological run on the bank, leaving your follicles bankrupt of color. For us over 60, this is critical because our resilience to stress is different than it was at 30. We might be dealing with retirement adjustments, health concerns, or caring for family. The physiological toll is higher, right? So the actionable takeaway here isn't just don't be stressed. That is useless advice. The trick is to actively engage the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode, to counteract the norepinephrine. You can do this through supplementation with adaptogens like ashwagandha. Several clinical trials have shown ashwagandha significantly lowers cortisol and stress markers. But even simpler, commit to 5 minutes of box breathing daily. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. This signals your brain that you are safe, stopping the chemical bank run on your hair follicles. Prioritize this as if it were a heart medication, because for your stem cells, it is life support. We are moving into the final stretch now. And this fourth trick acts as the foundation for everything else we've discussed. You can have the catalase, the copper, and the stress management, but if the cellular instructions aren't being read correctly, the system fails. The fourth trick is optimizing the methylation cycle through the B vitamin complex, specifically B12, B9, folate, and B6. You might have heard of B12 for energy, but its role in hair pigmentation is massive. B vitamins are crucial for a process called methylation, which is involved in DNA repair and the production of proteins, including the proteins that make up your hair and pigment. When you are deficient in B12 and folate, your body produces an excess of an amino acid called homocysteine. High levels of homocysteine are inflammatory and are strongly linked to hair graying. Here is the kicker for those of us over 60. Atrophic gastritis. This is a condition affecting nearly 30% of seniors where the stomach lining thins and produces less acid. You need strong stomach acid to detach B12 from protein and food. If you have low stomach acid, which creates heartburn, ironically leading many to take antacids, making the problem worse, you are likely not absorbing B12. Even if you eat plenty of meat, the medical literature is very clear on the reversibility of this specific type of graying. A study published in the Archives of Dermatology reported cases where patients with premature graying were found to be B12 deficient. Upon correcting the deficiency with supplementation, their hair actually regained its color. This is one of the few instances where reversing gray hair is medically documented in black and white. Imagine your body is a construction site. You have the bricks, minerals, and the workers' enzymes, but the blueprints, DNA instructions, are faded and unreadable because the printer ran out of ink. B12 and folate are the ink. Without them, the workers stand around confused and nothing gets built. The actionable takeaway here requires a specific choice. Do not just grab a generic multivitamin. You want to look for methylated B vitamins. Look for methylcobalamin instead of cyanocobalamin on the label. Methylcobalamin is the form that is pre-digested and ready for your body to use, which bypasses the absorption issues common in older stomachs. If you suspect your digestion is sluggish, consider a sublingual B12 a dropper tablet that dissolves under your tongue, going straight into the bloodstream and skipping the stomach entirely. This is a game changer for senior energy levels and hair pigment preservation. Let's take a moment to bring this all together. We have covered a lot of ground, and I want to make sure these 4 tricks are clear in your mind so you can act on them. First, we talked about the bleaching effect. You need to boost catalase to stop hydrogen peroxide from whitening your hair from the inside. The move here is antioxidant-rich foods and wheatgrass. Second, we looked at the ignition switch, copper. Without it, the tyrosinase enzyme cannot make melanin. You're going to balance your zinc intake and add chlorophyll or sesame seeds to your diet. Third, we discussed the bank run on your stem cells caused by stress. We learned from the Harvard study that norepinephrine depletes your pigment reservoir. Your defense is adaptogens like ashwagandha and dedicated breath work to calm the sympathetic nervous system. And finally, we addressed the fuel and blueprints, vitamin B12 and folate. We learned that absorption issues after 60 can lead to deficiencies that cause graying, and that methylated sublingual vitamins are your best route to reversing this. What I hope you see in this list is not just a vanity project. These are not superficial beauty tips. Every single one of these interventions, lowering oxidative stress, balancing minerals, managing stress, and improving methylation, improves your heart health, your brain function, your energy levels, and your longevity. The return of your hair color is just the visible bonus. The real prize is a body that is functioning at a younger, more efficient level. It is easy to look at the aging process and feel like a passenger in a car rolling downhill, but you are in the driver's seat. Science has given us the map. It has shown us that our genes are not our destiny. They are just suggestions, and we can rewrite the script with the right inputs. You have the power to change the environment in which your cells live. I want you to try implementing just one of these tricks this week. Maybe it's the B12, maybe it's the box breathing. Start small, but start because your health and yes, your appearance is worth fighting for. You deserve to look in that mirror and see a reflection that matches the vitality you feel inside. Now, I have a question for you to answer in the comments below. Which of these 4 areas do you suspect is your weak link? Is it the stress, the nutrition? Let's discuss it, because your experience helps others learn. If you found value in this deep dive, please subscribe and like this video. It's a small click for you, but it helps us build a community of seniors who refuse to settle for average aging. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your trust. And until next time, stay vital, stay curious, and take care of that amazing body of yours.